different passages from New Testament that speak about service motivated by love and faith. These words come from Romans. Let love be genuine. Abhor what's evil. Hold fast to what's good. Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Do not be slothful in zeal. Be fervent in spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. In 1 Peter, each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Whoever speaks, as one who speaks oracles of God. Whoever serves, as one who serves by the strength that God supplies, in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. To him belong glory forever and ever. Amen. John writes these words, You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give to you. And lastly, from Hebrews, these words, Let mutual love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so some have entertained angels unaware. Here end our readings. Thanks be to God. Invite our mission folks to come forward and share stories, and if we might get a microphone for them.
Not exactly sure what the plan is here. Good, great. So we're going to make it easier to see the photos. Clearly, we realize that they're not as visible as they might be. So if you'd like to come forward and have a look, mill around while I sort of lay the groundwork for the sort of bullet points on the trip, and then hopefully we'll have others here step up and talk more specifically about what we did. So as all trips, as they have sort of evolved, they start in the same way. It's usually a Saturday or Sunday morning in darkness in the city lot just adjacent to the church in Mineral Point. A group of us, after a few months of planning, gather and hit the road. And as has been a constant, Fritz's van is part of that, as well as his trailer and a couple of other vehicles. And it's generally about 1 degree out, and that's what it was when we left. So the first leg of our journey this year took us past Des Moines, which was our first big stop in a snowstorm that Fritz's van was unable to keep its windshield de-iced, so we had a longer than anticipated lunch until that storm blew through. And then we hit the road again and whizzed past Kansas City and past Joplin, which we'd been through past near a couple of years ago. And after a couple of wrong turns, we were on our way to Tulsa. And that's where we stopped for the evening. There in Tulsa, a group of people, our church parishioners from a Lutheran church, which is now presided over by Lynn Robinson, who you may remember was an interim pastor for us. She has a congregation there, and she was good enough to arrange for us to stay in the homes of many of the parishioners there. And in the morning, we shared service with them and fellowship and lots of great food. So we left again, fat and happy, on our way toward Midwest City, which is where we were to stay at Wickline United Methodist Church, which is in Midwest City, as I said, and we were protected by the Air Force Base, which is right there, so we had lots of planes flying over, and we knew we were safe the whole time that we were there. Great place to stay. We had about as luxurious accommodations as we could ever have had. A good floor to sleep on, showers there at the church, which is always a plus, and a nice big kitchen. The following day, on Monday, we traveled to a town that was about 20 miles east of Midwest City, in I guess the closest largish town was Shawnee, and we were in Shawnee County. There at Grace Baptist Church, Grace or Faith? I can't remember. Grace, I believe. We met with our work coordinators and divvied up the work details, and decided that we're going to split our group into 3, and got on our way. And our destinations were some very strange roads named Squirrely Lane, Bob McDonald Drive, and Post Office Neck, right? That's what, did I get them right? Very, very, very poor area. This was an area called the Pecan Valley. It was also very pretty, despite all of the devastation, all the blown down trees. Sort of lowland with short hardwood growths all over. You could see why people wanted to live there. It was gorgeous to me. If you're into birding, it was like hawk heaven. All week long, I could barely stop my eye from turning up to the sky. But as I said, very poor. My own personal sort of measuring stick was these people had no more in their pockets than anyone who lived in the lower Ninth Ward. I think it was described to us as perhaps the poorest county in the state of Oklahoma. So we were on our way. We had 3 homeowners that we worked with, one of which was a couple that needed a number of things done to their home. And I'm going to let perhaps Fritz talk a bit more about what he did at that location. Then there was a single mother who had a business that primarily was about horse riding training, that several of us worked there. Maybe Alex can tell you a bit about that. He had a lot to do with that project. And then a third, which was a woman by the name of Loretta, who had, it's just an extraordinary story of her house was literally blown off of its foundation. But this is one of the, that story is a sort of typical of what we have experienced time and time again about people who go through such a life-changing process that doesn't just involve floods or hurricanes or tornadoes and the sort of physical manifestation of a storm like that. It is the psychological devastation that goes along with it. Loretta was a woman who had, in addition to this storm, lost her son in a tragic accident, and her husband, who basically had succumbed to the sort of incremental devastation that goes along with an event like this, a life-changing event. And because of that, was suffering extreme mental trauma, and that sort of sets the stage for the base level of where these folks were at that time. They just, after almost a year, it would be a year in May, they hadn't been able to really kickstart their lives at all. They were spinning their wheels mentally, didn't know how to get going. Things seemed to be snowballing on them, and that's where these folks come in. One of the last thing I'll mention before I turn it over to some people is that each one of these incidents like this, be it Katrina or in Joplin or here in this case in Oklahoma City, they seem to have different circumstances surrounding the recovery effort. In this case, at least if our information was right, money was not the issue. There were a tremendous amount of resources, financial resources that had come about because of where this storm occurred. Oklahoma City, sort of one of the hubs of country music, and lots of big-name stars who came from there had done huge amounts to get money together. So the money was there. It was finding people and sort of giving them the nudge to come forward and say, I need help. And that in each of the instances where we were working, that is what had occurred. When after 6 months, people somebody found them. Somebody said, we have help for you. You just need to tell us what you need. That happened. And maybe I'm going to turn it over a little bit at this point. Maybe I'll switch places with Alex, and he can tell us a little bit about the work that we did for Michelle on Squirrely Lane in Pecan Valley.
So that was our first job that most of us arrived at down there, was Michelle's little horse farm. And like Bill said, her main income was training riders and horses before the tornado came through. And it had stopped. Her income had stopped. So you have someone who's come through the tornado, survived, her boy has come through and survived. And I'm sure initially there's that feeling of, yes, we lived, we made it, we're alive. And then they realize that their life is not going to continue on the way it was because they don't have the resources or the personal ability to undo the damage. And that is where we found Michelle. She had been living on an income from her horse farm, she said, of about $2,500 a month, which doesn't sound like a lot here, but it's a very poor place, heavily trailered, as one person described it, a lot of mobile homes. And so for her, she was making a good living there at that level. And she had to take several small jobs to try to fill in the interim. And she was working at the local gas station and those sorts of things, which was providing her enough income to eat and keep the electric on and that sort of thing, but not enough to put her life back together. So her barn was blown apart. Her house was hail damaged, windows and siding, and there were trees down everywhere. Bill knows he spent a great deal of time on the chainsaw, getting the trees off the fences and out of the pasture. And she was just overwhelmed. So she would come out and look at the damage every day and just immediately get overwhelmed, she said, and then go do whatever she had to do at her job. She made literally no progress. Some neighbors came and got one half of the barn back together, and that was as far as anything had gone with her place. And like Bill said, the jobs were funded, which was nice. We were able to go get whatever we needed for her place. And that really helped to keep us all useful and get the full potential of our group going there is that we had all the materials that we needed to go. So we made material lists the first day and cut trees, tore down a couple of damaged sheds, and just really assessed and cleaned up. And the next day went shopping and spent the rest of the week putting things back together. And you could see immediately the first day, as soon as we started cutting the tree out of her front yard that was filling the center of the driveway there, she came right out with a rake and started hauling brush and instantly picked up, just that little bit of forward motion started to bring her back around, bring her hope back around. And by the end of the week, she was like a new person there. And we had her barn back together, new windows and siding on the house. And it was very gratifying to see that our little bit of labor could go that far in someone's life.
Fritz is going to tell you a little bit about the place that he spent a number of days at.
Three of us went over to this older couple's house there. And Jim, that was along with it, he was an electrician, and we had to redo all the electric work. Whoever was in there had everything hooked up wrong, and everything would freeze up all the time there, and they didn't have any water in the house that way. So we insulated everything, got that all repaired. And then in the house, the electrical outlets and fans and things weren't put up, and so they couldn't use any of that. And we got that all repaired for them. We took care of the furnace, which was up in the attic there, and put in new filters and things. So we got that going for them. And then we built a ramp so she could use the wheel cart to get her in it, get him in and out of the house. But both of them were real feeble people, so they was really pleased that we got that built for him, that she could wheel him up and down in the wheelchair there. And then I took cheese along from Hook Cheese Company. He always donated us cheese all the time, and every place we worked, I left a piece of cheese or the pastor or something like that. And he called me the ambassador from Wisconsin, the cheese man.
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about Michelle's place. I think it's just overwhelmed with the stuff we did, as far as you could just see her emotions that we had to be there just to get her going. Like Alex said, it was just that little bit of emotion just to get her going. And I spent a lot of time putting sheds together, so as you clean out her house, so they get to do drywall in there, which we didn't do, but it's just that little bit of step to get her going. She kept up coming maybe 5 minutes the first day, maybe half a day, and then at the end of the week she was out there all the time with us, praising us that we did all this stuff, and it was just overwhelming to see that. And I think it's just been a great trip, good weather, and like I said, it was a good time, so hope we can keep her going.
Julie, can you talk a little bit about, I know you weren't there on that site, but about Loretta? Yeah, that'd be great.
Loretta's house was, do you know what a wood storage, little tiny storage shed that looks shaped like a barn, maybe 8 by 8. Well, her house was 3 of those put together, so 8 foot by 24 foot maybe. Literally, that's what it was. 3 of those little houses connected, 3 of those little barns connected together. That was her house. And it tipped over, as Bill said, it tipped right over. So that meant the plumbing and the electrical were ripped out. And she really, literally has had no plumbing and no electricity for 9 months. Now the house sits in her son's yard, so she was able to go and have meals at her son's and have baths and things of that nature. But this is her home, it's all it is. All she has is this little 8-foot home. But she was just really, really overwhelmed that they got the work done. And as Bill alluded, she had, a lot of issues. one of our women went there, and like pictures and things, you know, there were pictures there, but she hadn't put anything back up since this time frame, so helped arrange her family pictures and you know, thought it looked so nice, and she really had nothing. I mean, she didn't have any dishes, she didn't have a stove or a refrigerator. The refrigerator did come, and she thought it was going to come with food in it. She said, look, I have a refrigerator, but there's no food. I need meat. So, you know, there was a lot that we did that was, anyone could have done the physical work. Well, not anyone. You know, I mean, some of our guys are really, really talented. I'm not so talented in the physical work. But I don't believe that God sent us all the way to Oklahoma just to do the physical work. Honestly, they had money. They could hire it done if it need be. He sent us to serve people and to spread his message. And our shirts, you know, there's some pictures of the different shirts. Fritz was a great one. He had shirts on all the time. One of them says, "The good guy's on a mission from God." And another one says, "God is still speaking." And their mental state, honestly, it went from here to there, just to know that help was here and that we were willing to help them. Loretta, that was the woman that her house tipped over. There was a community dinner. She hugged everybody. She was just so pleased to have us there. It was really, really remarkable. The mission church that sent us out and told us what jobs to do, told us there has been 25,000 people through that church. They were in dead center. The tornado was 12 miles wide, and that mission church stood right at the 6-mile point. So, and one of their parishioners lived right next door to the church. So the tornado went by, and, you know, he came out to see if his house is okay and if the church is okay. And they had some really beautiful trees in the church and near the parking lot, and they were just laid over. And he said, "Really, God, our trees?" But the church wasn't touched. And he didn't really realize the scope of the tornado until he rounded the corner of the church. And the path of devastation is literally right next door to the church. Just completely wiped out. Everything is gone. He said, "Okay, God, I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to go that far." And their whole mission story is just one miracle right after another. They had thought, well, we have to get on point right away and get helping people. And so, like, the next day, you know, they had a mission control set up, which is a miracle because we can't even get a bathroom painted without 6 community meetings, you know. So they said initially they started with just food, and their youth group set up a sandwiches and bottled water at the corner. You know, just as volunteers were coming by, you could grab a sandwich and a bottled water if you wanted. Well, it's just a little poor church, you know. It takes a lot of money to get bottled water and sandwiches and people to staff it all the time. And they were just, you know, like, oh, what are we going to do about this? And an ice man pulled up and he said, "Could I help you in any way?" And he supplied ice to them for several months so that they could have ice in their coolers. Then they decided we really need an ice machine. And of course it was way, way, way over their budget. And they kept working and working and working. Finally, they got the $10,000 ice machine down to $3,000. They still didn't have $3,000, but they said, "Okay, we'll do it." And the day the bill was due for the $3,000 ice machine, they got a check for $3,000. Another day, they had there was about 700 volunteer workers that day that they come in for the morning, they got their assignments, they went out, they were coming back to that church for lunch. There was no lunch. Tyson Chicken Truck drove up and said, "I have 750 chicken sandwiches today. Could you use them at this location?" So really, really, God is working. And for us personally, you know, Bill alluded to the defroster not working. It was an absolute miracle. Our driver was in a total ice cave. And Mark was the passenger, and he had to drive, saying, "Come right, go left, brake. And the rest of us knew enough to keep our mouths shut. So, and I just want to say thank you for your support. You know, we couldn't do this without the financial support, your prayers, your good wishes. It isn't just for us, it's for the people who we're serving too. Their spirits really do come alive.
Just one last thing. There were a few other people. I'll try to remember everybody's name. If you see them, pat them on the back, thank them. Chuck Tennyson, Karen Tennyson, Keaton Carey, who was a new addition to our group. It's always great to get highly skilled people. And Keaton probably was barely able to get out of Loretta's house because he saved her life that week. Keaton's mom, Keith, he became Keaton's mom, also was on the trip, Judy, and Corey Ross. Who am I forgetting? Jim Schneider, who is the do-it-all electrician god from the Belleville area. Yes, Scott Strobush, also from the Belleville area. Greg Wilson, veterinarian from Mineral Point, and April Fuhr. I think that we just about have everybody. I'm sure I missed somebody. So it was a good group of 14. They're already talking about doing it again. 2 days after we got back, everybody wanted to, let's get a spring trip together. So it is energizing. And if you're thinking that maybe you want to do it, start planning early. And we surely will do it again next year. It can't be stopped now. It's in everybody's blood. Thanks.